welcome. Hello. Welcome to the Knit Song Podcast. My name is Audrey, and this is a podcast about knitting, crochet, sewing, yarn dyeing, crafts in general, and maybe even some quilting. A new thing that I'm starting to do. So anyway, welcome to the podcast. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer and subscriber. Thank you so much. We got some new subscribers this week. And so thank you if that's you. Welcome. If this is your first time tuning into the podcast, welcome for the first time. So yeah, today I'm super excited. This is episode 11. And I have a really full episode today, and it's been a great couple of weeks since I last podcasted. I have had more time in the past 2 weeks to be crafty and to do things that I like to do than I've had maybe in the past 2 months. So it's been a really productive, fun, creative couple of weeks, and so I have a lot to show, which I'm excited about. Yes, so on social media, you can follow me on Instagram at I Knit a Little Song, and I'll put this in the description box below. If you are on Ravelry, you can join our Ravelry group, and it was just started this past month or so, and that is the Knit Song Podcast group on Ravelry, and on Ravelry my name is katknitss, and I will put that below. Yes, so welcome. I'm super excited. So I think I'll jump in with our first segment today, which is just news and updates. So as we've, now that we're moving into we've had 10 podcasts. I was trying to come up with like some kind of cool thing for like the second set of 10, but there's really no anniversary that way. This isn't making sense. Basically, since we've had a few podcasts and I've gotten some cool questions, and I've so enjoyed talking to you viewers and people that have like messaged me or talked to me on Instagram, and that has been my favorite part of this podcast. So I guess the best way I can make sense of this is, in order to build more community and to chit chat and get to know you better, we're going to start a new thread on our Ravelry group, which will be an Ask Me Anything thread. I know a lot of podcasts do that at the beginning because it's a great way to be able to get to know each other, and it's fun if you have questions that you can just ask away. So I will be opening that thread on our Ravelry group, so please feel free to join the group and ask any question you'd like. I'll probably just try and answer a couple per episode depending on how many we get, and I think that'll be a fun little get to know you thing. If you are not on Ravelry, and I know some people aren't that are knitters, and that's fine. So if you just wanted to leave a question for me in the comments box below, you totally can, and I will also look there and try and grab some of those questions as well. So yeah, ask me anything starting today. Yeah, so that's kind of my only piece of news and update stuff. So the next segment I'll jump into, which I'm so excited about, is what's on the old needles. So here are the works in progress that I've been working on. I'm super duper excited. Which one to grab first? I think I'm going to start with my new cast on. This is a Reyna shawl, which is actually what I'm wearing is the first Reyna shawl that I knit. It's a triangle shawl, and I will actually show it to you. I've shown it on the podcast before. And it's summer and it's warm, but the air conditioning is no joke. And so it's so nice to have a shawl to wear. And so it's kind of like a really simple pattern. It's on Ravelry. I think it's still a free download. It's probably one of my favorite patterns I've ever knit. It's a lot of garter and lace, and it's just this nice shawl. And I like to wear it wrapped around the front, but with, like I said, with the air conditioning in the summer, I really love to just have it over my shoulders because, I don't know, air conditioning really bothers me, and you need it, but it's also kind of annoying. So yeah, so because I love this Reyna shawl so much, And I highly recommend, if you're looking for a free pattern to just knit a shawl, it takes only 1 skein of yarn. Worsted weight or DK I think is fine as well. And you'll get a full shawl out of it. It's a super fun knit, it's easy, and it's great. So I cast on another one last week. Oh, I love this yarn. Let's just take a moment and look at all those beautiful colors. I showed this beautiful skein of Malbrigo yarn that I bought when I was in California, and I love it. It's called, I think it's 064 is the color, is their number for it, and it's Chispas, I think is how you say it. But it's all these gorgeous browns, and oh my goodness, I'm just enjoying looking at the colors. Makes me happy. Of browns and coppers and different shades of brown and just all kinds of good stuff. Oh, love it. So I balled it up. I couldn't wait any longer to knit with it. I was hanging on my board of yarn, and I was like, I need to knit this now. And so I did. So I cast on a Reyna shawl with this beautiful Malbrigo, and I love it. So this is what I've got so far. Looks like a cool little hat, like Star Wars Princess Amidala or something. Anyway, okay, I digress. This is what I've got so far. So you cast on and you kind of work in this triangle pattern. You start from the top middle of the shawl, and then you finish with the triangle points. So really, this is how you wear it, if that makes sense. But I'm really loving the way that the variegated browns are knitting up. You can see just so many different variations, and it's going to be such a pretty, I just can't wait to wear it. You know, some projects are fun to make, but you really don't want the finished product as far as like something that you know you'll grab all the time. For me, like I always want to cast on a pair of mittens, but I don't really wear them much. So, you know, but the knitting it would be fun. The project would be fun. But this is one of those projects where I'm enjoying the yarn, I'm enjoying the knitting of it, and I cannot wait to have this in my closet. So this has been fast progress. I'm doing this on 5mm needles, which is the recommended size. I'm doing this on clover bamboo needles, which I'm really a fan of. The point is, they're not super pointy, but I like how there's not a ton of space in the tapered section, so it makes it, for some reason, just easier for me to knit. I love this project, yay! So yeah, this is my cast on of the week, but actually there's another. So another cast on that I've started is a brand new project. It's actually not a pattern, I'm making it up as I go, so it's just a simple rectangle basically, and it is with this mustard yellow, whoo, it's fun, mustard yellow Cascade yarn. I got this in like a clearance sale at this knit shop years ago, and I've always wanted to knit like a mustard cowl for autumn. I just think it looks so autumnal. And it's a worsted weight, and I'm using 5mm needles again, and I'm loving it. And what I did is I just cast on, I think about 50, maybe 60 stitches, and I'm just doing a moss stitch. So if you're familiar with that, or if you're not, it's just knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, but then when you go back across it, you do the opposite to each stitch. So a 1x1 ribbing, you would knit the knit stitches and purl the purl stitches. To get the moss stitch, all you do is the opposite. So if you're going into a knit stitch, you purl it. If you're going into a purl stitch, you knit it, and that gives you these alternating bumps. So I think this is going to be originally I had thought I'd be casting on and then doing like a big old loop, so it would be like this would be the top, this would be the bottom, and then I'd seam it. I don't know if I'm going to have enough yarn for that though, so then I thought plan B would be this is the front half, and I'll just do this up until how high I want it to be. I like when they're squishy and lots of fabric, and if I run out, I was thinking maybe I could even do the back half. This would look kind of weird, maybe. I don't know. The back half in a different color. So like the front half of the tube would be moss stitched with the yellow, and then like the back half would be something else. But preferably it would just be all yellow. So I'm going to see how much I can get out of this skein. I'm sure I could get a small cowl, but I really like the big kind of droopier ones. So we'll see. But this has been just fun couch knitting. I just leave it on the side of the couch and then just do a couple rows when I can. But I will say, moss stitch for me is tiring on my hands. I don't like having to switch the yarn front to back every stitch. So I'll show you a couple rows. Most of you, it's pretty, most stitches you have to do some movement of the yarn back and forth is what I'm saying. But but a lot of times there's a break in between, and with moss stitch or even ribbing, 1 by 1 rib, it's every stitch. So let me see if I can show this. If you're beginning with a knit stitch here, this is a knit stitch, so I'm going to purl this one. This is a purl stitch, so I'm going to knit this one. So you're doing the opposite. But in between, for purls, you know how you have to take the yarn and put it towards the front for purling and towards the back? For me, that motion gets my hands super tired. So I did a couple rows of this. Last night we watched, we rented the Lego Batman movie, which was really fun. And I thought it was really funny. I'm not a fan of like crazy animation or like the Lego movies and things. They're just so bright for me. It's just so much visually. It's like, ah. But this one was so funny. I was okay with it, especially since my husband and his family are big into the Batman world. So it was fun to see a kind of playful take, making fun of and enjoying Batman at the same time. Anyway, so I knit a few, maybe 3 or 4 rows of this last night while we were watching the movie. And here we go. So yarn to the back. I am so not set up to show this the right way, but knitting, right? And then to purl, I have to pull the yarn in front, and then I can purl the next stitch. And just that simple act, as crazy as it sounds, really tires me out. So yarn to front, purl, yarn to back, purl, and just that kind of thing times 60 just to get across a row. I woke up this morning and my hands were just so tired because I was doing moss stitch. So that's something that bums me out, because I wish I just had unlimited strength and energy to just knit everything that I wanted to knit and just create it right then. And I have to pace myself, and that's difficult. So anyhow, I don't know if you, let me know in the comments below if you have certain stitches that aggravate your hands or make your hands tired. I would love to know if other people have that, or if maybe you, I don't know, like if you have certain stitches that just, you notice that you could just knit for days, that type of stitch, whether it's stockinette or even crocheting. Certain types of stitches in crochet I know are easier and less wrist working than others. So yeah, I would love to know what you think about different stitches being difficult to do. And here I go. I could have just shown it from this angle. I'm crazy. But here we go. So yarn to the back, knit, yarn to the front, purl, yarn to the back, knit. And it just, for me, it just tires me out. And I think I have to practice good habits of like stretching and you know, taking a break in between rows. That really makes a difference, I've found. I used to just knit, and then I would be really like sore the next day. But just stretching out, like I'll do these type of stretches where I'll put all 5 fingers together, and then like kind of pull down, press them out. I'll just stretch my arms out, and you know, that kind of simple stretching really makes a difference. And it makes sense, because when I go to the gym or when I bike or anything, you stretch out your muscles so that they're not sore. So I guess it makes sense that even if they're smaller muscles, you would want to do that. Who knew? Anyway, I am just full of words today, so thanks for sticking around. But yes, this is my mustard moss stitch cowl that I will keep you updated on. So I think I'm going to have some coffee and look at my notes because I actually wrote detailed show notes today so I wouldn't forget stuff. And I will share while I'm at it, while I have this out. This is my Titanic replica coffee cup, which is a replica of the exact type of coffee cup they had on the Titanic. So I was about 3 or 4 when they found the Titanic. I've probably talked about this on the podcast. Maybe I haven't. But I was about 3 or 4 when they found the Titanic in the 80s. And I remember being super young. This is one of my earliest memories, is standing on my couch. Not sitting, but standing on my couch and watching the early footage of the ship as they found it. And it just was so mysterious and weird to me that this ship was underwater and yet they'd found it. And I don't know, I just from that age was fascinated with shipwrecks in general, but especially the Titanic. So I think I have shared this before on the podcast, but this is just a fun replica that my husband bought me when we went to the traveling Titanic exhibit. It was in San Francisco a few years ago, and it was such a beautifully done exhibit. They had an actual huge piece of the hull of the ship. I don't know, they used like a crane to get it in there. And they had everything from jewelry to china to pots and pans and just all kinds of things. And it was done so respectfully. It wasn't like, let's all go enjoy all these people's misfortune. It was very historical and very respectful of the tragedy that happened, but also very much informative of how the ship was built and how that all happened. So I studied history in college and am a huge history buff and just love anything that has to do with history, but especially as it relates to ships, and especially from like 1900 to 1930, anything in the early turn of the century towards the Art Deco era. Oh my goodness. Just love it. So yeah, anyhow, that's what I'm enjoying my coffee from today. So yes, indeed. Here it is. Okay, so let me check in with where we're at today. I have one more thing that is on the needles, and it is my green hand-dyed, my own hand-dyed yarn shawl that I've been working on in my own little project bag that I made. I'm so into making project bags. It's like my favorite thing right now. This one was like a French country blue with like a teal zipper. I had so much fun making this little guy. But I made a little progress on this, and I'm loving this pattern so much. I'm making it up as I go, and I'm trying to take kind of mental notes because I think this might be the first pattern I actually write down, which I would love to just experience what pattern writing is like. So maybe I'll hate it. Maybe I'll be awful at it, but maybe I'll be good at it. Who knows? Here it is. Whoops, that's the wrong side. Dun, 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 ba, ba, ba. I don't know why I'm singing Star Wars. Whoa, maybe I had too much coffee today. But here it is so far. It's just magical, and I'm so enjoying this. Another project I cannot wait to wear. So, got some garter eyelet stuff happening here, some stockinette eyelet garter rib stuff happening here, and I think I'm going to start a new section. So this one is another triangle shawl. I'm really into shawls right now, if you can't tell. And it's kind of hard. It's gotten to the length where if I pull it straight at the point, that there's not enough room on the cable to really show you the full dimensions right now. But I'm really happy with it. Yay! Another thing that I'm super excited about with this yarn that I dyed, this is this yarn right here. Whoop! This one, this colorway is this knit up. And what I'm really happy with is it's not pooling in a weird way. The color is laying out in a really pleasing way. At least pleasing to my eye. So what I'm getting is a lot of small splotches of it, yet from far away it kind of reads as a semi-solid, even though it's more of a variegated type of yarn, if that makes sense. But I'm really enjoying how it's laying out, and I'm so happy with it. So this is a dream to knit. This is on a 80% merino, 80% merino, I can do math. 80% merino, 20% nylon, fingering weight yarn. And it's super, super, super soft. I'm doing this on 3.5 millimeter needles, and these are my Addie Turbo Sock Rocket needles, and they're my favorites, I think, right now. Not super sharp. I wish they were a little sharper just at the edge, but they're sharp enough, and they're round enough for speed too. I mean, they're a good balance. I love the cord. It's like a very flimsy cord, and I mean that in a good way. It doesn't have a mind of its own in the way that it would be like jutting out, or like, I don't know. Sometimes cords that are really stiff, they're almost hard to manage. This one just kind of lays down where you'd want it to be. So yes, I hope to finish this by the next podcast and maybe be wearing it. Whoops, got some ends to tie in. But yeah, the green shawl that is unnamed, I will name it and hopefully write it down. Yay! All right, so those are all of the those are really all the only works in progress that I actually have. I have a couple things that I'm testing, but I haven't actually cast anything on with them. For example, last podcast on episode 10, I shared this beautiful variegated yarn I got at Fashion Knit, which is a great yarn store in California, in Walnut Creek, and the owner dyes about half of the stuff that she sells at the shop. So I bought some of her own hand-dyed yarn, and it was that coral and hot pink and brown variegated. Now, it's the type of variegation where you pull it into the hank. So you've got the big cylinder, you've got a big circle of yarn, and it had like 6 colors laid out. So this is how it looks when balled up, which is really fun. And I wanted to see how it would knit up, because you can't get more than about 10 stitches per each color before it changes. So I have never knit with that type of variegated yarn before, or at least not hand-dyed. So I knit up a 10 stitch swatch just to see what it would do, and then I cast on more stitches to see what it would do over a larger area. This looks like it could be like some type of face mask of the beginning of one. Anyway, yeah, so it's really, really cool. I love the way the colors are laying out. I don't know what kind of project suits best. Like socks might be perfect in this. I've got so many shawls on the needles, I don't think I need any more shawls. I was thinking about mittens, but like I said, how often am I going to remember them in the morning when it's cold to wear them? It's like a gamble, because I might forget about them and then not wear them much. So anyway, I'm kind of just swatching and playing with this yarn. I love it. It feels great. It's also an 80/20 merino nylon fingering weight, and I really love the colors. It's like a great, great yarn. I just don't know exactly how I want to use it yet. So yes, I will move on to the next segment of this little show, and that is, sewing. So I have recently, I mentioned in the last episode, got my sewing machine, get to use my grandmother's sewing desk, and I've been having so much fun with that. And let me just move some things aside here. But I put this on Instagram, and so you might have seen, I finished my first dress. So excited. It was, the pattern, I'll have to go grab the pattern. I think I put it away. Or I can just put it in the description box. But it is a simple t-shirt dress. I have not tacked in the sleeve facing. But here's what I've got so far. I've got a dress that fits in the sense that it gets on. I can wear it. It's not too small. But it's way too big. And so this was my first, like I said, my first dress. And so here are the pluses of this project. I will stand up and show a little bit of it. I was going to wear it this week. I really wanted to wear it for the podcast, but I couldn't because it's huge. Like, I had to take it in already an inch, and I did that in the back because of the way that the pattern is constructed. Anyhow, it looks like a hospital gown on me right now, unless I have a sweater on over it, which I'm such an easygoing person that it's a good thing in some ways, but it's also bad because I also am so easygoing that I'll just live with a problem instead of like saying, hey, I could fix that. And part of the joy of being a seamstress and being able to make my own clothes, which is what I'm working towards, I would love to be able to do that, is part of the beauty of that is that you get to actually make your own alterations. So in theory, if you are good at sewing, you can have clothes that fit you really, really well. And so I'm not going to settle. I'm going to continue to use this as a practice piece because I need to finish tacking the facing down. But I also am going to practice taking in a dress, and I'm going to need to take this in a lot more for it not to hang like a hospital gown. Unfortunately, even the color and the pattern, if it's too big, it really lends itself to looking hospital-y gowny. So I think if it fits better, it won't look that way. It's a cute fabric, and it looks, when I pin it in and I imagine it tighter, like more fitted, it'll look great. But right now, it's totally a hospital gown. But here are the plus parts of the project. I should go back and talk to the positive. I like the dress pattern. I'm going to use it again. Second thing, I know now how to measure myself for a pattern because I allowed extra ease when I measured myself and picked the size, and now I can kind of trust the pattern a little bit more and measure and pick a truer measurement to go with for the future. So now I know what size to make out of that pattern, so that's a bonus. The biggest bonus was that I tackled new sewing techniques. I did a facing, I eased in sleeves. Oh, sorry, I just whacked the camera. Sorry. But I eased in sleeves, and that was so hard. Sorry, I've still got pins in here. Let me show you one without pins. But basically, easing in sleeves was so scary to me. I didn't do it perfectly, but I did a good job, and I made it happen, learned the technique. Basically, it's when you have the distance of this fabric is greater than the distance of this fabric. So you almost have to like gather it just a little bit to actually fit or ease it into the armhole, which is super, super scary for a new sewer. So I watched like 5 YouTube videos on how to do that, and somehow got it done. I texted my mom, I think like 4 times, and kept texting her pictures of, does this look right? Does this look right? I think I got it. I think I got it. So yeah, I mentioned my mom got to come out and visit us here in Utah a while ago, and it's so great to have family out because for us, San Francisco is just still home. Utah is just so different, and it's still new. So it's great. We love it here, but at the same time, like, it's so good to have people from home. It just makes your new city feel more like your city. To have other people that you love see it. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, she was here for a week a little bit ago and was actually here to help me cut this dress out and lay out the fabric. And so unfortunately, when she was here, I threw my back out like really bad. I've done that a few times, and this was one of the worst times where I had to lay on the floor for the last 3 days of her visit, basically, and it was such a bummer. Although she's so awesome, we had so much fun. We watched movies. She and my husband and I, we caught her up on a bunch of Marvel movies because we love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. My husband's totally got me into it. And I mean, what's a girl to watch? Downton Abbey's over, so I need something new to watch. So anyway, I've been getting into those. So we watched a lot of movies and, you know, had fun. But it was such a bummer because my mom and I had plans to keep sewing together, and I really wish she could have been here while I actually sewed on the dress. We only got it cut out together. But thanks to the magic of texting, she was kind of able to help me through the steps. And so it was still kind of a mother-daughter project. So thank you, Mom. Yeah. So hopefully next week, maybe the week after, it'll be altered and I can wear it and it'll be fitted. Yay. So this is the green dress project. And that's really all I've finished or I guess it's not finished, but that's what I've accomplished in sewing this past couple weeks. Yesterday, some future sewing projects. I am deciding I really want to try my hand at quilting, which my aunt who watches the podcast, hi Auntie, is a quilter as well. Not as well. I'm not a quilter yet. She's like a master quilter. But I got to see her when I was in San Francisco at home last month briefly. I got to talk to her a little bit about quilting, and yeah, I just think it's time. I've always wanted to do it in the future, but now that I've got the machine, I think I'm ready to start, so I'm excited. So what I did is the other day I was just at Walmart. My husband and I wanted to buy some houseplants and random things, and they have great deals on fat quarters, like stacks of like little scraps of yarn. And what I got is I got this cute stack of 5 different fabrics, and then yesterday I just had a cutting party and I cut out 6x6 squares. And so I'm gonna watch some tutorials on just basic assembly of rows, putting rows of squares together, and just practice like getting my stitching perfectly straight, because I can pretty much stitch a perfectly straight line, but the cutting and then, you know, doing that between 2 pieces of fabric is one thing. Sorry, I'm getting like super close to the camera. Doing that between 2 pieces of fabric is one thing, but when you've got all these other pieces lined up, it gets complicated. So I wanted to practice. So it's kind of like black, white, and gold is there's like a gold rim on these black circles. Is the stack that I found, and it was just kind of fun and graphic and bright. Not really bright, but just looked fun. And they, and like I said, ooh, black and gold, and I love, this was the pattern that was on top, the way they had them folded, and so this is the one that sold me. I thought this was very 1930s, like I said, an Art Deco fan. Loved it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to practice just sewing straight lines of squares, and then hopefully put this together in just a little sampler. I don't know. I need to look at a pattern. I probably need to call my aunt and just ask where to start. So I'm super excited to kind of just tiptoe into the world of quilting. So that's something that's next on the to-do list for my sewing list, my sewing to-do list. So yeah, project bags, I'm gonna make one today, and I have all of my pieces cut out, and here they are. So I'm gonna have a 2-tone bag with the gray is gonna be the main color, and the bottom is going to be this pink damask, and then the lining will be the pink on the inside. And then I'm gonna try and actually put a handle into this one. I have not yet done a project bag with a handle. So hopefully by the end of the day, this little thing will be a bag, and that's super exciting. So yeah, so those are kind of my sewing, that's my sewing segment for the week. That's what I've got so far lined up for the old sewing machine. Yes, so I think I will move on to my yarn dyeing segment. I am in love with dyeing yarn. I'm having so much fun. It's ridiculous. So, oh, you know, I think this is the first time I've noticed that all the yarn showing in the shot is my own hand-dyed yarn. Ha! Proud moment. So everything up here, I dyed. Hurrah! But these are all like color samples and colorways that I've shown you before on previous podcasts. So today I have something new. I mentioned that I am a huge Marvel fan, meaning I do not read comic books, but I love all of the Marvel movies that started with Iron Man in 2008 and are still going into their next phase or whatever. Because they're such great movies, but I am so impressed with the story writing, because all of these different movies that they've done have their own story, but they're all connected to an overall story that makes sense. That, to me, I've tried to write before. I love to read, so I appreciate good stories anywhere. But I can't imagine putting together a story that's big and meaningful and has like great character development, and then having it all done in these different separate films that have their own contained story, but yet they also relate to the whole. It's just really impressive. And so I've totally geeked out, and I'm totally just a Marvel nerd now. It's just official. I've joined that group. So I think that my favorite Marvel movie ever is Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which just came out. Guardians of the Galaxy, the original one, is high up there on my list as well. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend them. They're so funny. The characters are really, it's fantasy. It's crazy. It's not realistic. But if you get over that and look at it from what story they're trying to tell, it's so much fun. The acting's great. The writing's hilarious. And it's just a lot of fun. So we went to go see Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I will say, more than once in the theater. It was so good, and we just enjoyed it so much. The characters, the plot, the music, oh my gosh, so great. So I was so inspired by this film that I was like, well, what if I dyed yarn that was inspired by the different characters? And so for myself, I have made a little series that I'm calling Yarnians of the Galaxy. And so far, this is what I've made myself. So here's my package of all the minis I've dyed for the different characters. And I think I will pull them out and show you. I keep them, I'm packaging them up just because then it feels like something special that I bought for myself. But I love it. So let me open this up. If you know the characters, awesome. This will make a lot more sense. If you don't, just Google image Guardians of the Galaxy, and like you'll be able to hopefully match the ones that I was talking about. Anyhow, maybe I'll post a link of something. But sorry about all that crackling. That will be the end of it. Yeah, so the first one that I got, the main character is Peter Quill, and Peter always wears a red leather long full-length coat, and he doesn't always wear it, but he wears it a lot. And so the thing that I dyed for him is this maroon, sorry, trying to get the light right on it, maroon, black, and brown yarn that is kind of just inspired by Star-Lord's quilt. Not quilt. He doesn't have a quilt. Coat. So this is kind of like the Ravager leather that they wear. And yeah, so this is his color so far. Then there is an infinity stone in the first one, and it's purple. And so I dyed this one with all the different kind of shades that kind of glow out of this magical stone. And this one is my infinity stone one. And then there are two characters that are from the planet, I think like it's called Kree, or maybe those are the people that live on that planet. But anyway, those people in the movie are blue, and their skin is painted like this beautiful blue color, but it has almost like purple undertones, and not speckles, but there are definitely purple flecks in the blue. And then almost like little bits of red especially in the leather of the clothes that they wear. And so Yondu and Nebula are two of these blue characters, and so I dyed up, oh man, I picked a really bad time of day to film because this is not quite showing up. But yes, this is their color so far. So you can imagine me if my skin were blue. Kind of crazy. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so far those are these three. I'm really happy with these. Ooh, maybe yarn dreadlocks is like a new thing that I can look into. Anyway, but then the one that I'm like the happiest with, the colorway that I worked on that is directly inspired by a character that I'm really pleased with this one the most, is Drax. And Drax is a very gray, bluish gray kind of skinned character with these red tattoos like etched all over him. And so here is his colorway, which is this bluish gray and then splashes of red. And I didn't want to just do straight speckles. I wanted to kind of like have like, not, is striations a word? I think that is, but like I wanted to have almost like little lines of red because of his tattoos. You know what? I should have grabbed it. Oh, nuts. We have a poster and a popcorn thing of it. I should totally show you that. You know what I'll do? Maybe I'll post that on Instagram, is the picture of this next to him. It like looks so spot on. I was so proud of myself. So yeah, so this is the Drax colorway. Then Gamora is Zoe Saldana's character, and she's awesome. I've been a huge fan of hers ever since like when she was in that movie Center Stage. It's about ballerinas, and it was like filmed in like 2000 or I don't know, maybe 1999. Anyway, she was a ballet dancer in this movie, and she's just great. And so I've really enjoyed her ever since then. But her character is green and has black leather on all the time and has like maroon tips of her hair. So I was going to try and incorporate all three of those colors. It looked awesome in the dye pot, and then I had my citric acid and my process, it was like all usual, and then for some reason the green like completely just muted out and rinsed out when I did the final wash, which never happens. So I was like, no! Anyway, so it was really vibrant and bright, and what happened, I have no idea. I'm going to try this again this week. I still like it, but it was like spot on this almost neon green that her skin color is in the movie. And then I had the black and like little bits of maroon. You can kind of see the maroon a little bit. But then it washed out. So anyway, I do like this, but like the other one was so much more Gamora. Like it looked so much more like her before it rinsed out. So I'm going to try this again, see if I can keep that vibrancy next time. But yeah, so that's that. So, dun, 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 dun. Here they are, the Yarnians of the galaxy. Anyway, I'm just super geeking out about this, and I'm just having so much fun. So this is the kind of thing that I would totally buy for myself if it existed. And so maybe there's a market for people that are into comics and Marvel stuff, and I would happily serve that market. But maybe this is just something that I would enjoy. I don't know. I'm just having so much fun with this. And it's so much fun to dye yarn when you're inspired by a specific character, because there's like, it's just such a fun jumping off point. And then I can't wait to knit with these. I think what I'm going to do with all these minis once I finish them is I'm so excited. I'm going to do like a striped shawl or something that they're all in. And then I just can't wait to knit with it too, because each one like is such fond memories of enjoying that character and just enjoying the film. So I'm super excited about these. Yay! Yeah. So I think that's all I have to say about the onions. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. Yeah, so that's kind of all I've been dyeing, because those are lots of different each one of those was a different day that I worked on. I don't think I did 2 of them in any day because it just takes a while to like mix all the colors, try things out, and then do the whole process. So that was kind of like 2 weeks of work right there, although it was spread out. But anyway, I'm going to hopefully finish. I have not dyed a character. I'm sorry, I have not dyed a colorway yet for Groot or for Rocket. And if you're familiar with the film, Rocket is the Bradley Cooper voiced raccoonish character. And Vin Diesel does the voice for Groot, which is this humanoid tree thing. Anyway, they're like best friends, and so I was thinking of dyeing one colorway for them because they both are basically brown with lots of variety. So I was thinking of trying to dye one of those this week, and then that would complete my set, because then I think I would have one for every member of all the Guardians. So yes, that's the plan. Yeah, let me see where my notes are. So for the next segment today, I thought I'd start kind of a review segment of reviewing either the latest thing that I bought that's knitting related, or a podcast that I like, or just anything, just to put it out there. Because one of the goals for this podcast is just to, like I said, create community and to share good things and to add value to your knitting life. So one of the best ways that I think I can add value to your experience is to point you in the direction of things that have really encouraged or inspired me. So even though the one I'm mentioning today you've probably heard of, if you're watching this podcast, I'm sure you've seen the thing that I'm going to recommend, but maybe not. So yeah, so I'm going to just share some review stuff. The first thing that I wanted to review was my first pair. Well, actually, I got 2 of Chiao Goo needles. Now, where is the case? Sorry, I had everything all neat, and then I just got it all messy. So, I don't know if you have ever knit with Chiao Goo needles. This is their brand, and they have like this cool, like, if you can see it, I don't know if she shows, like this beautiful knitting lady. And I really have enjoyed them. So they're stainless steel, they're circular needles, and I've heard lots of people talk about Chiao Goos and how much they love them, and so I really wanted to try some. So I did this week, and I like them a lot. What I will say about them is this. The join is super smooth, so there's like no snagging. Some circular needles, they have a little bit of a gap in between like the needle and the cord, and your stitches get caught, and it's really annoying when you're trying to push the next stitches up and it gets caught and then it snags. It's just kind of a bummer. So these have a great fluid join, like you could just totally slide your stitches over there, and it's great. Also, I like that these are a little sharper. I like a sharper needle. It's kind of nice to get, like, I don't know, especially for cables, for any type of knit 2 together, slip, slip, knit, any type of increase or decrease. I like to have that sharp needle, because when you're doing things from a different angle, like, it's great to have that extra sharpness to get into exactly where you're trying to go. Rounder needles, you can kind of end up going the wrong, splitting yarn, or just doing things. People talk about splitting yarn if they have too sharp of a needle. I find that I split yarn with a duller needle. So I don't know if I'm just weird. But again, I'm sorry. I'm getting like so close to the camera. Yeah. So overall, my Chiao Goo experience has been awesome. I'm doing my mustard moss stitch cowl on my other pair that I bought. And like I said, love how sharp they are. But this is my only little, it's not even a complaint, but the only thing that has been difficult to adjust to is, if you can see, they're nice and pointy, but there's a long length of the tapering, which means it's full width, and then it starts to get thinner. That section, I prefer it if it tapers quickly, a little quicker, rather than this long area, because for some reason it just makes it difficult to keep a certain speed when knitting, because there's like a longer portion of the needle that you need to stick into the stitch before you can pull it off. Because if you just work on the tips, then your stitches are too small and you have to push them over. So I hope that makes sense. I find with my clovers that I was talking about, the bamboo needles, they're tapered just closer towards the ends. So when you're working at the tips of the needles, the stitch is closer to the right size, so it slips on to the fatter part of the needle easier. I hope I'm explaining that well. But anyway, if I'm not, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just a long taper. It's a long edge, and that's a little bit difficult to get used to for me, but I still love the experience. I like how sharp they are. I love the join, like super fluid. You can just move the stitches right over and nothing gets caught. The cord is nice and strong. It's not flimsy, but it's also not like wiry and annoying. So I love it. Yeah. So I would say if you are looking for needles and you would like to try something that's a little bit sharper than what you're used to or using, I would recommend a pair of Chiao Goos. The price also is very reasonable. It's about half of the price of some of the other needles that were in the same shop that are other brands that I know and like, but they're really well priced. So totally worth a try. Yeah, so I'm a fan. Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to review is what I am most recently obsessed with. So, if you have not seen the knitting show Off Our Needles, you need to watch it. It's great. It's an actual knitting like show. It's like a podcast, but it's on the Crafty YouTube channel. The same girls that do the Grocery Girls podcast are the hosts, but it's like a produced show. Like they sit at a desk or these chairs, and they have different segments, and I am just so obsessed with it. I've already watched them all. But now they're in their second season, and they come out on Friday nights, and I am a subscriber, so I get so excited. And so what I've tried to do is my recent routine has been on Friday night when I get the notification that they have a new episode up. I use all of my willpower not to watch it. And then on Saturday morning, I get my cup of coffee and my knitting, and that's the first thing that I do on Saturday morning. That's like my Saturday morning treat, is to watch Off Our Needles and knit and have some coffee, and it's so fun. So they do 3 main segments. They do like an intro, like just what's been going on. Then they do I think it's called Flip the Stitch. I can't remember. But they'll show you how to do a technique in one of the projects that they're featuring. Then they'll do a favorite things segment, which is so much fun. They'll showcase different yarns, notions, like just all the different products that are out there for knitters that increase your efficiency as a knitter, or just, you know, fun soaps. Like they did some cool like hand creams that are specifically for knitters. Just fun stuff, and that's always a fun segment. And then the last segment of their show is they'll interview somebody, and it's normally a pattern designer or I don't know, just a professional knitter basically, and it's so much fun. So that is my current obsession. I am the biggest fan of